Now that we've talked a little bit about whether a tarot reading is the right choice for you or not, I had a viewer ask me to talk a little bit about what types of questions should you then ask your tarot reader. And I would apply that to also if you were doing a reading for yourself, what type of questions should you ask as you go to work with the cards? And this is a really interesting topic, and one that I'm sure all of us who work with the cards, whether we work professionally with the cards or we're just working with them ourselves, and we have for many years, I'm sure we all have our own viewpoints and our own experiences with these types of questions. I would say in my experience, and I did talk about this a little bit in the last video, a yes or a no type of question is really quite stunting to the tarot structure, the structure that makes up the tarot, and to the 78 cards, giving you an insightful answer that's really going to help you to leave your session feeling very clear and hopefully experiencing healing at a certain level. And definitely at least walking away with some support and focused onto what the next best steps are for you to create the reality that you want to see in your life, instead of just repeating old patterns constantly over and over and over again. So yes or no answers don't really lend themselves to having that experience quite as deeply as you could if you approach a reading more openly. So for instance, instead of asking, am I ever going to get married? Perhaps approaching the reading with the question of how can I open up the door within myself to be open to having a lasting relationship with another person. Something like that, and hopefully that makes sense. There's a way that you can phrase the question that can really help you to get a much deeper answer. And if you're with a good tarot reader, hopefully they will help you to phrase the question in such a way where you're able to achieve clarity, but also a depth of insight that you wouldn't receive if it was just a yes or a no question. If you're reading for yourself, hopefully you've taken some time to meditate and to journal, and so you're able to get to a place with the question that's deeper than just, am I ever going to get married? This is just an example, because it is one that comes up quite a bit. Or, am I ever going to find, my perfect partner, my soulmate, that type of question. Because in my experience as a reader, and in my life experience, I would say that these opportunities that we long for but perhaps don't present themselves to us until we're in a space where we're open and ready to really be a part of that, instead of just using, to continue with the relationship example, another person as an excuse to avoid dealing with some deep inner issues that we really need to deal with. And as much as we might run from relationship to relationship until we deal with that issue, we don't solve the core problem or get to the core experience, and so we keep repeating the same things over and over. And this is where tarot is such a valuable tool, because it can really help us if we approach tarot this way. And I talked about that in my tarot series, and I truly believe that there is an honor and a respect that you need to approach the cards with, even if you're just going to get a reading done and you're not a reader yourself. That's necessary in order for you to be able to take the answers to the questions seriously. So I'm wondering if I got completely sidetracked now. But to clarify, so yes or no questions don't really lend themselves to having the fullest tarot experience that you can have when you go to have a reading done, or when you are choosing to do a tarot spread yourself, especially if there's an issue that you're looking for some insight into. So what kind of questions then are good questions to ask? And for that, really, if you have a good tarot reader, the possibilities are endless. What's important when you're coming with a question, you're looking for some insight, is more that you're really open to listening to whatever the cards might bring forth. And I believe in my path that it's actually your higher self choosing the cards. So what is it that you want yourself to know that quite possibly you haven't been still enough or allowed yourself to be still enough to hear the answer with it? So being open is really important to fully getting down to the core in the center during a tarot reading. So then we can say, well, then what types of questions? And like I said, the possibilities are endless. What I would suggest is that, especially if this isn't a spur of the moment decision, you really take time to, again, meditate and journal before your reading and look at what it is that you're really actually looking for insight in. Maybe you're wondering, am I going to quit your job? Am I going to quit my job? But the question is really, what is it that I actually want to do with my life? What is my life's purpose? And so you can see from that, whereas if you take the time, and generally before the reading, I would recommend this, to really meditate and focus on what it is that you actually want to know. Because a lot of times we have a surface answer that's safe and makes sense and makes us feel comfortable as we go into a reading. But that's not actually the question that we want to ask at all. And if you have a good tarot reader, you're going to get down to the core meaning, and there'll be things that come up, and it might be a little more difficult for you to hear those messages if you're not as, again, open. But if you haven't thought about it as much, if there actually is a layer underneath and a layer underneath and a layer underneath of the surface question that you're asking. So taking time to really think about what's underneath my basic question. Am I going to get the job I want? What's underneath that question? Or will I be able to quit my job and find the perfect job? What's underneath that question? That's how you can turn a yes or a no question into something that's a lot deeper, and that can give you insight that you're actually leaving the reading with tools and a focus and spiritual support to follow your path and to lead the fullest life possible, which is what we all want. We all want to be following our bliss, as Joseph Campbell so eloquently told us or expressed to us. The other thing that I would say, so again, be open, really think about what's underneath your surface question. Besides these two things, when it comes to asking questions during your readings, again, you do have to be aware that there's probably something underneath that maybe you haven't even totally taken a look at that will quite possibly come up. And be open to that coming up, and be open to exploring that. Instead of just saying, well, that's not me. If the Five of Wands shows up, saying, well, that's not going to come up, and I'm not even going to entertain that thought. Try not to have any closed doors when you go into your reading. The other thing is, sometimes going into a reading, just asking to know what it's most important for you to know at this time can be a really amazing experience. Now, this is where tarot readers do differ, because some tarot readers that I've spoken to, some other tarot readers, they really don't appreciate it when someone comes in like that, and they think that it makes it too broad of a spectrum for the tarot structure, and so then all kinds of things come in, and it's difficult to bring it down to something concrete for the client or the querent to take away with them. I actually disagree with this approach, because, and that's at a personal level, and I don't think that anyone who feels that way is wrong. I'm just saying, for me, when I read for other people, the experiences that I've had when someone shows up and says, I'm really open, and I just want to know kind of where am I right now? What's going to be coming up? How can I be the most aware and the most open to change as I approach these situations? or if something's bothering them, if there's been something that's been very traumatic that's happened, or something that's been very stressful that's gone on, such as perhaps losing a job. And instead of coming in and needing to know the answer of, am I going to get another job? Instead saying, I just like some insight into why I'm in this current situation and what I can change on a spiritual or a personal level so that I can bring in what I actually want to experience in my life. When I have those types of readings with querents, I actually find that the spectrum of answers that they receive is actually quite clear, and they end up walking away with a lot more information than sometimes if we're so focused on just the answer to the question. So I would offer that to you as well as an option. If you're thinking about getting a tarot reading and you're wondering about, how to ask what you want to know the answer to, be open to being just completely, what do I need to know at this time? And if you end up having a tarot reader who's not comfortable with that, they will let you know right away. They'll say, I'd really appreciate if we had a direction to go in, or there was something you wanted to focus on, and then you can elaborate on that and still get that fuller experience with tarot. It really is an amazing structure to experience the greater message. And the same would apply with oracle cards. If you're going to get a reading done and you're not getting tarot, you're having an oracle card reading done, I would offer to you that approaching the questions the same way can be really very helpful. And you'll still be able to come away with a great deal of information with through the oracle cards, just like you would with tarot. So I think that pretty much covers what I wanted to talk about with, what types of questions should you ask. Again, I would really recommend that they not be yes or no. Oh, I do know the other thing I was going to say that I did want to add. And the Four Queens talks about this on her channel as well. Okay, so like I said, the Four Queens does talk about this in her channel too. And I actually say this and state this before every reading I have. And that is that I give to others. A tarot reading is not the same experience you have when you go to visit a psychic. And so supplying your tarot reader with information and background and actually being open to have a conversation during a reading is essential to having a good reading. It's essential to walking away with concrete information that's actually really going to be positive and help you, and that will have you coming back for another reading. I have experienced clients who refuse to share any information, and they refuse to communicate during the reading, even though I've clearly stated that is the type of reader I am, and if they're looking for that experience, they need to go somewhere else. And I will address that a little bit more in another video, how to handle those clients when they come up. But as the querent, you're really missing out on a great experience if you won't communicate with your tarot reader. So I would say, think about the questions that you want to ask your reader. And again, be open to whatever answers come through, and be open to communicating clearly and comfortably with your tarot reader. So thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye.